Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Matt Salem, and you've tuned in to another episode of Our Best Behavior, brought to you by Behaviorally. We are the global digital-first leader in defining and diagnosing human behavior to help you achieve the most valuable moment in marketing, when a purchase transaction occurs. We are Behaviorally, the transaction experts. Each episode, we share insights on trending topics within our industry and of interest to our customers. Today, we're joined by Ari Popper, founder and CEO of SciFutures, to discuss why AI is a hot topic everywhere, including in the insights industry. We'll explore how organizations use it to derive valuable insights, along with its benefits, ethical considerations, as well as its impact in a data-driven landscape. Ari, welcome.
Hey, Matt. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. Really appreciate you coming on. It's been a while since I had seen you last. It was a couple of months ago in New York City. Where have you been traveling to since? I know you're quite the globetrotter. Anything exciting to share with our audience?
Yeah, I've been traveling a lot. I've been to Japan, to Tokyo, and I've been to Spain. I'm in the UK. Yeah, quite a lot of travel. I know there's more travel in Portugal, I think. But yeah, lots of travel this year.
All
Been a
right.
really exciting time. Yeah.
All right. That sounds great. Any favorite food or drink that popped up along the way?
Oh, you got to love Japan. You know, the Japanese food's just amazing. But yeah, it's been sushi one night and then the next day tapas. So that's pretty fun.
That is fun. I love that. That sounds right up my alley, actually.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. I wanted to start off today talking to you a bit about your company, SciFutures, and it's molded around this notion of bringing the future to life in a variety of ways. And I was hoping you can just kind of elaborate on that, and then tie in the role that AI plays in bringing the future to life, and kind of the impact of AI and how that's shaping your company, SciFutures.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, behaviorally, as the name suggests, like we want people to change their behavior. And with respect to the future, the way we get our clients to change their behavior is to feel the future and to bring it to life. So the more you can connect with the future through storytelling, through immersion, embodiment, the more likely you are to change behavior. So that's what we do. Been doing for the last 13 years. And really have perfected it in many ways. In terms of AI, yeah, it's new in terms of how we're applying it, but we have over 300 science fiction writers that work for us under NDA on behalf of our clients. But now you can do a lot of that with ChatGPT. So you can ask ChatGPT to write science fiction stories, and they're pretty good. They're not amazing, but they're good as a data gathering engine. I know we'll talk about data in a bit, but imagine getting 1,000 stories from an AI and analyzing them for insights about the future. That sort of thing. Yeah, AI is really interesting. Also, in terms of content production. So we create videos for our clients and voiceover. We used to hire voice actors to kind of narrate these videos. And now you can use AI, and it's good, actually, really good. Yeah, so there's a lot of changes affecting obviously large companies, but even small ones like say Futures.
Sure. Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
AI voiceover has come a long way since I used to fool around with it on my 40 megabyte hard drive HP, which was, many, many, many years ago. I remember playing around with some voice dictation technology, and sounded far from
Mhm.
human. It truly has come
Yeah.
leaps and bounds in a long way. But when you think about
Yeah.
storytelling, and you brought up kind of how you're leveraging storytelling, I'm wondering if you could just go a level deeper on that, and how SciFutures is really using storytelling to help clients. Because you said, wow, I mean, 300 writers. I mean, that's a lot of stories to tell. So tell us a
Yeah.
bit more about that, please.
Yeah. It's a great resource for us having that panel of writers. We don't use them all the time, but we use some of them. But yeah, we're storytelling animals. Human beings are storytelling creatures. It's how we make sense of the world, and it's how we communicate effectively with each other. We're addicted to stories. We just can't get enough of them. So when you want people to understand what the future can be like or should be like, um, put it into a storied environment, a storied context, storify it. and that's an effective communication mechanism. So that's how we use narrative and story. And there's lots of ways to tell stories. You can tell them through podcasts like we are. You could tell them through magazines of the future, videos of the future, short stories, literally short stories. But the point is to use story as a medium to create that connection.
Mm-hmm. Well, in thinking about the utilization of stories to make connections and in thinking about the connections that businesses build with their customers, one thing when we were recently together in New York at the AI event that we were partnered together on, there was talk around kind of the idea of companies shifting from B2B or B2C, depending upon the organization, over to what you were calling B2A, business to algorithm. And to me, there's a bit of a friction there, just in the way it sounds, between the word storytelling and the word algorithm at face value, right? When I hear algorithms, I think about, frankly, my 8-year-old son telling me about how he's really poking into every possible Rubik's cube algorithm recently, and he's doing pretty well. I got to give him credit. Got to give the kids some credit there. But with that being said, when I hear storytelling and algorithm, it feels like two different ends of a spectrum. So I was hoping you can reconcile that and talk a bit about this B to A idea.
Yeah, I mean, one's a concept about the future, business to algorithm, and then stories are ways that we can bring the future to life. And also kind of, take away the complexity with concepts like business to algorithm. But we're not talking about business to algorithm. What I'm referring to is that we'll have personal AI agents. So just like we have a Siri and Alexa now, that's going to get so much better at understanding our needs. The interface, the UI, how we interact with these agents is going to improve. Natural language processing. And the algorithms are going to get really good at understanding what we need and making sure we get them. So we'll have agents, AI agents, that'll go out and interface the world for us, and they'll shop for us and arrange the perfect date night for us. And they'll be talking to other algorithms. They'll be talking to the brands, the products, the services that provide those experiences and those needs for us. So you'll have an algorithmic marketplace. So the concept really that I'm talking about is, which we're getting to pretty soon, is you might just have an agent working on your behalf in the future continuously in the background. And it's shopping and it's spending your money and finding the best deals for you. Now, where story comes in is we can create a narrative of that vision of human beings with deep hopes, needs, fears, and wants, kind of playing in that future, surviving, living in that future, where they have their own agents. So what we've done is taking a fairly complex concept, which is the business to algorithm idea of the future, and now we're creating a narrative so people can understand it. So we can create a character. Let's say it's parents who are really busy with kids in the home, and they really got a lot to get done that day, like we all do. And then how do these AI agents really help them? So that's an example of using story to explain a fairly, let's say, conceptual idea in a way that we can all relate to and connect with.
Well, I could certainly use an agent either to host a podcast or to be at my desk right now, one or the other, I guess. But I'll digress from there
Yeah.
and ask you a bit more about agents with regard to insights and the insights industry. And how are agents going to ultimately play into the world of insights? Do you have a viewpoint there?
I do. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like for the consumer insights industry, I see three really interesting applications for AI. The first is just how research is done. So I would say research without consumers or respondents. I think AI is very intriguing in that component. I think it's the data that is going to get generated, so synthetic data, and how data is analyzed, I think is really interesting. And then I think also in terms of creating stimuli, I think those are the three very kind of interesting areas for consumer insights industry. So if we look at the first one, research without the respondents, I see it's perfectly feasible that we'll have synthetic consumers, essentially AI models that are trained on our customers and consumers that we can query for insights. And it's not a new idea. I think the industry is already working on it, and there's some companies that are already doing this. There's an article in the Harvard Business Review, when was it? 30th of May this year, saying, can AI predict whether shoppers will pick Crest or Colgate? So a very simple research question, is a Colgate or is it Crest? But if it can pick it accurately, then we're onto something. And because we're talking about the future, we can have some liberty in terms of what's plausible. It may not be very predictive today, but 5 to 10 years, we might be able to get 80% of our research questions answered by synthetic consumers, because these large language models and these neural networks are so powerful that we might be able to get a lot of our research done just by pinging an agent. So that's the first one. Second one is around data, synthetic data. So do we need these huge data sets of actual consumer data, or can we create our own data, kind of synthetic data to enrich our database? So let's take ad testing, for example. Do you need to test every single ad that's ever come out, or can you create fake ads with fake data that makes your ad testing database more robust? So the data side is really, really interesting too. And we're seeing instances of that already in the medical sphere, where with brain tumor data, there aren't, thankfully, enough brain tumor cases to get a really huge brain tumor database. But now we can use AI to create fake brain tumor data, MRI data, image scans, to enrich the database to improve the accuracy of predicting brain tumors. It's amazing. Love that use case. Freaking mind-blowing. And then the last one is around creating content on the fly. So you've got an ad, you test it, you get some feedback, and then you change it straight away. You can change the color, change the mood, change the tone, change the style. It's a bit clumsy now, but in the future it'll be a lot better. So that changes everything, right? Where you can literally do the research and improve what you're improving in real time. And I know you guys are working on some of that for your packaging testing already. Yeah, so those are the three exciting areas. I know there are more, but that's kind of how I'm conceptualizing the influence of AI in insights industry so far.
To kind of just go a bit further on two of them. So first, when we think about kind of AI representing the consumer, in my conversations with clients, there's of course, kind of both ends of the spectrum. One end, highly interested in AI and leveraging AI and utilizing it to drive efficiencies. On the other end, a concern that it's not human, and then everyone that falls in between. And I'd like to know kind of some of the reactions that you get from others when you're speaking to them about the possibility of building consumers that are really agents, if you will. Because I know that there is a segment of clients out there that we have that would say, well, me or my leadership, we want to talk to real people, right? And then secondly, kind of tied to that, there's this concern that if AI is constantly being leveraged and learning from data sets that show, X drives A and Y drives B, well, then you're constantly going to have that finding, and you're never going to be able to kind of recognize anything new that might change with real consumers, where all of a sudden there's a new driver out there to a certain end, et cetera. And I have my thoughts on that I share, but I would love to hear yours, Ari.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, we'll always need real people, because there's certain insights that we need. And we do need fresh ideas, and we do need creative ideas. But to some extent, AI can give that too. But there is the risk of having an echo chamber with algorithmic predictions, where you just keep getting the same thing over, and you miss out on really true, creative, and innovative new things. So I think that risk will need to be managed. I'm not saying that AI is going to do every single bit of research forever, but I do think it'll do a lot. And there will be certain instances where, we won't rely on AI to do it. But I mean, for the clients that are hesitant, I understand it, but you can validate this work pretty easily. I mean, it's not difficult. You do a big study using consumers, and once you've got your model and you're fairly comfortable with it, look and see how good it is at correlating with your human subjects. And if you're getting the same results consistently, then it's a no-brainer. So I know market researchers or experience science professionals by nature are more traditional and conservative. But we're also scientists, and we also know, like, if the data's there, the data's there. And if it isn't there, then it's interesting to know why, and can we perfect these models? So some clients will be more naturally risk averse and will want to err to the side of caution, and some will be braver and be willing to try new things. And it's always been that way and always will be that way. But I would just say keep an open mind and be a scientist, be curious, do good design, good research design. Don't gaslight yourself either way. And be open, because the benefits would be profound, and very disruptive too. So I think we've always had that in the industry. Whenever something new comes on, I mean, even going from telephone research to online research, there were a lot of people who didn't want to do that, and I'm old enough to remember that time. So I think that's the case.
So one other aspect I'd like to touch on is design, and more so stimuli design, not research design. Somewhat similar vein, but when you think about designers hearing about the potential of AI to literally say, we being the AI, did some analysis and we think your design should really look like this. I mean, have you had conversations with folks that are more focused on design work for stimuli, whether it's packaging or advertising, et cetera? Because, on the one hand, I think there are some out there that would highly value that, because it's almost kind of like that iterative assist, if you will, where they can then kind of bounce ideas off of AI, further take the ideas that AI gives them and put the human touch on it. But there are others that might say, well, hey, AI can't tell me that I should have done design this other way from the get-go. What does it know? It's a machine. And I always thought that would be an interesting kind of juxtaposition in the future, particularly as it ties into the design world. So I wonder if you have any thoughts there, experiences there, and talking with others.
Yeah, I mean, I have a point of view. I think it's controversial, but I think we have to work with AI design tools. It doesn't mean we have to accept what they say, but I think humans plus AI are better than just AI or just humans alone. So I think if you are a designer and you're comfortable working with AI tools, it'll make you a better designer. You still have the final say on the product or the output, but it'll improve your design and might give you some additional ideas. You're free not to use it, but I think it's not just in design. I think it'll be in most of our endeavors. We'll work with AI because it's just so useful and helpful. So my point of view is humans plus AI is better than humans alone or AI alone. There is, I would say, warranted concern of AI taking over human decision making and final say, and that I have problems with. And there's also warranted concern over how these AI agents got to be where they are. They basically were trained on the back of a lot of people's work. And I think the legitimate questions about how we should get reimbursed for training these models if we contributed to them. In fact, there was an interesting startup I heard about the other day that, if a particular output, say a Midjourney visual output, was made up of 100 images that was trained on, is there a way to provide fractional payment to each of those 100 people who created those 100 images? So those sorts of questions I think are legitimate, because we gave away our data for free, but we're not compensated for it. So I think those are good questions, but we can't resist the trend towards where we're going. People have to get comfortable with the idea of working with AI. I mean, it's like, do you want to do math in your head or do you want to use a calculator? It's a bit like that.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
analogy. So, well, if I ever get around to building AI Matt, I'm going to ask AI Matt to mine Bitcoin for me on my behalf to pay me back for the underlying creation of AI Matt. So that'll be the way I
Yeah.
work it out. Well, look,
You could
in
be AI
thinking,
Matt already.
right.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know. So in thinking about, kind of as we close out here, back to kind of the analytics side, the numbers side of the game, not the stimuli side of the game, and just
Yeah.
AI is used to improve accuracy and reliability of predictive analytics. What ways in the near term are AI going to have an influence? And, maybe tied to that, what are some of the further opportunities and challenges that exist along with that?
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding your question, I've seen some pretty impressive use cases of AI instantly analyzing very large data sets. So basically pulling out the insights, spreadsheets, raw data tables, and just being very clever at finding the insights and also providing like real-time charting and graphic reporting of those insights. And that's been around to some extent, but it's just getting really, really good. Again, I would just make sure there's a human eye and that we understand how this model is working and how it's analyzing it, so it doesn't become black box, and we don't get lazy and rely on it too much, and so that things go horribly wrong or it just misses things that we should have picked up. So I think there needs to be a degree of transparency and insight in terms of how these models are really working, if we can. And there's some instances where we can't. But that to me is really important because we don't want to become overly dependent and completely relinquish our responsibility on just trusting the AI to give me the insights, whereas we need to know why it's doing it and how it's doing it. But it's great. I mean, I think the challenge traditionally with data analytics is federating lots of different data sets with different data structures, combining them in a way where we can understand the relationships between the different data sets. And then once we understand the relationships, or at least level the playing field, we can make really interesting predictions and inferences about things like weather data and, traffic data and, our personal biometric data and, very different data sets. But we can federate them and get them on a level playing field. Now we can find really interesting correlations between different data sets and then predictions. So that to me is really exciting. And that's kind of the promise, I think, of advanced data analytics. And companies like Snowflake have been trying to build on that, and enterprise data analytics platforms to look at all the different data that's coming from an organization, federated and find insight. That's very cool. And then what that gives rise to is digital twinning, or enterprise twins, or even individual twins, where we can create models of things as complex as people or enterprises or organizations, and then run scenarios and do forecasting. I mean, that's the promise, I think, of big data and advanced data analytics. And it's moving at the speed of light. Like, there's amazing things that are happening in that place. I mean, I'm not a data analyst, and I just know enough to be dangerous. I know it's a highly technical field, and there's very smart people working on it. But it's exciting. It kind of reminds me of the kind of what's his name, Asimov's psychometrics. Is that the right word? I don't think I got it right, but Asimov basically had a model
We'll give you
where
that.
you could
Ding, ding.
basically predict. Yeah, I don't know why I've gone blank on it because I've read the book. It was amazing. But it's, if you could look it up, it'd be awesome. I'm a bit embarrassed I should know it, but my mind's blank. But the basic idea in the sci-fi book is we're able to really understand the nature of the world and the universe because the data is so rich and the model's so predictive. And that gives us tremendous power. So interesting speculation.
Well, I always like to close out with a more personal question, but this one will be kind of in a fun AI-driven way. So, the Ari agent, if you can build the Ari agent for tomorrow, what is it focused on for you? What is the Ari agent doing on your behalf in order to help you get through your days, get through your weeks?
He's working on business development.
Great answer. I love it.
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some of the audience and some of my colleagues certainly wouldn't be surprised, but I was thinking of like a personal chef type, like my AI agents follow me around just making me food and whatever I want all the time, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. That would be a big help.
Yeah.
That give me more time for business development, actually.
Yeah, that's true. I love what I do so much, and I wish I could do more of it. So if there's a way for me to get to claim myself to do more of that, I would be thrilled. Yeah.
Well, Ari, I really want to thank you for coming on today. It was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun. To our audience, thanks for tuning in to Our Best Behavior, brought to you by Behaviorally. Ari, really appreciate your time and your insights today. And with that, we'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it too.